For me, music is it's an aesthetic and it's the sound, right? And the two things together make a band, right?
If you're to draw a band roughly in sort of like stick characters, you can draw Guns N' Roses and you know it's there.
We're in a world where everyone's connected, everyone's online. Our people must be out there, right? So how do we connect with them?
Hi there, welcome to another episode of In the Chair With. Today we are going to visit with the members of Spycamera. Spycamera is currently a duo based both in Washington, D.C. and in the UK in London. Today we're joined by Tim and Matt. We have Matt in steampunk goggles, and Tim is the faceless man in the mask. Welcome, Tim and Matt, to In the Chair With.
Thanks so much. Great to be here.
Thanks for having us, man.
Yeah,
Good to speak to you.
Absolutely. It's not often in these interviews that we get people in multiple time zones, but we have Austin, we have DC, and we have London. Yeah, I guess it's just mid-afternoon. It's not a crazy hour for you, right, Tim?
It's kind of, what is it, 6 o'clock in the evening or late afternoon? It's fine. It's fine. Normally getting up around about this sort of time.
Excellent, excellent. I interviewed an Australian artist recently and an artist in India, and I learned a lot about time zones. I hadn't thought about how to schedule an interview with someone in Australia before.
Yeah, that's like almost 12 hours difference, right? Probably for you.
Yeah, it's bizarre. And I learned that in India, they actually have time zones that are half an hour offset.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little world knowledge here. Uh, I want to talk, well, let's just start with Spycamera. If one of you kind of want to take the lead and talk about how this formed. And the music is very interesting and compelling and energetic. How did Spycamera come about?
All right. Well, again, thanks for being here. I mean, Spy Cameras came about this point about 3 or 4 years ago, right? So me and the other guy, we've known each other for a long time. We've been in lots of projects together, and we wanted to do something that really brought together all of our passions into one place. We wrote songs for about 2 years before we did anything, before anything kind of became public. So we spent a lot of time kind of like exploring stuff, and the guiding light for us has always been to just do what we kind of like to do. I mean, we're not a genre band that's trying to fit into a certain box, and some people like that, some people don't like that, but that's what we've always been. Just do what you like. We're definitely indie rockers at heart, but we've got lots of influences from the UK, from the US, and we just kind of set about writing a bunch of tunes. We wrote 100 songs before we put anything out there. Then we started testing it with what we used to call our listening ears, like our friendly ears, a couple of our musician buddies, and sort of said, is this any good? Is this going to go anywhere? And we did that 3 times. And there was enough of yeah, it sounds okay. We thought, okay, we'll actually go do this thing. And then here we are, right? So we're 15 songs in, 1 year in. We've amassed over 35,000 Insta followers, and the goal for us out of the gate was to just see if anyone cared. And 1 year in, I think we've established that there's enough people that care. So now, like, it's about, okay, how do we take this thing a bit further? So that's a bit about kind of how we formed and kind of where we're at.
That's great. When you mention genre specific, I actually didn't ask you right before we hit record, but I was writing down the intro thinking, oh well, it's the band of what genre is that? And yeah, it's easy to fall back on some alt or indie or something like that just because it's general, but the music has a very unique sound. I mean, you have a sound that is not all over the place right now.
Well, I appreciate that feedback. I mean, we're trying to sort of find a space that definitely nods to genres, it nods to influences, no question, right? But we try not to stay totally in one lane, and that can be confusing for some people, but for us, we just love it. So for us, it's just about the music and doing what we like and seeing who's out there that might dig what we do, right? So yeah. Anything you want to add, Tim?
Yeah, no, I'd say that it's purposefully eclectic. It's purposefully retrospective. It's purposefully futuristic, if you like. it's a bit of a mixture of, a nice little amalgam of the lot. So as he says, it draws upon as much upon indie rock, gothic rock, heavy metal, hard rock, EDM, trip hop, everything that has influenced us since we've grown up as kids, right? And it's a melting pot. Spycamera is the melting pot of all of that.
I think that list of genres you listed actually is the genre that you do.
Right, yeah.
All the above.
Yeah.
Uh, I'm very interested in artists' just persona. I think a musician creates music, but a performing artist inherently performs, and that includes moments like this with interviews or your promo photos. What what was the inspiration for the look that you have? I think in everything
Well,
I've
what can
seen,
you
Matt,
possibly mean, Wally? What can you possibly mean?
you have no look. This is just you woke up.
I mean, how did it's a great question. I mean, I think for me, music is it's an aesthetic and it's the sound, right? And the two things together make a band, right? And given our plan and the way that we're trying to make our way in the music industry and to find fans is through Instagram and TikTok and social media. I mean, image is as important as the music, right? Because people won't stop scrolling unless they kind of go, well, what's that, right? Music's actually quite hard to get across on social media, funnily enough, right? And so we did think a lot about the vibe, and for us, it was important to be authentic to the music, right? That's got to be key. A bit timeless, we've been around the block a few times, and so I think it was important for us to create a look that matched the music, but it also was a bit timeless, right? And was sort of agnostic to era, if that makes sense. So we kind of call this the weary space traveler. That was kind of that's what we used to sort of refer to this as. Like, I think the kind of weary space traveler is kind of the vibe, right? We've been around the block, maybe around the whole universe, and now we're in a band. That was kind of like what we're going for. And people seem to resonate with it. It gives people something to catch on to. And obviously I was born with these on my face, so this was always part of it, right? I had to build it around it, right?
No, you could Spycamera could be in the background of a scene in Blade Runner, and you wouldn't look twice.
But, playing in some pub, or on down a side street. But actually, in all seriousness, the goal for us is to have music that within like 10, 15 seconds, it's Spycamera. And also an image where, we can make a Funko Pop out of it and you know who it was, right? And then you've done your job right from a point of view of aesthetic in a way that kind of connects.
No, it's amazing. I'm thinking of the different influencers or people with accounts that I follow talking about the music business or musicianship or whatever. It's very helpful for everybody to have their thing, whether it's, holding a cup of coffee right here and everything.
Right.
Or the certain background or whatever. You need an identity or no one can identify you.
Absolutely. For me, it's a bit like an alter ego, right? It's like the Spycamera alter ego, but it's kind of there's this stuff, and it feels right for the music that we create. And we've already got some little side projects bubbling in the background that we'll maybe bring out at some point. And for those who might do something a little bit different, right? So this idea of alter egos, we kind of like that concept.
Yeah. I think, as you said as well, if you're to draw a band, roughly in sort of like stick characters, you can draw Guns N' Roses and it's them. You can draw Queen, it's them. You can draw Motorhead. You can probably draw Prince. I think you can draw Spycamera, and for those who are aware of us, they'll be able to tell it's us. And I think we were purposefully looking to be, quite easily identifiable in that respect. And going back to what he said as well about being eclectic and having different sort of like perspectives, two of our huge influences are Prince and David Bowie. And those guys, we'll forever be trying to emulate them to no avail, but they provided such a great sort of like playbook, if you like, and in terms of both style, genres, they're adept elements to transfer into anything, as well as just having a stoic, hardline sort of image. So I guess those are two guiding lights as well.
No, those are two great icons to emulate. I mean, you can't go wrong. If you do anything that they did, it's going to go in the right direction.
Yeah.
With with regard to I think it's very interesting that Spycamera has uh, been born across the ocean. So you're not playing in local bars
Yeah.
3 nights a week right now. Can you talk a little bit about strategy? Because that I there are millions of artists out there who have music and put it out there, and it sits. So I think everybody is curious. Well, how do you do it? How do you do it?
Yeah, right.
Can you talk a little bit about you have a song and you put it out there, but Spycamera
Yeah.
has gotten traction.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's a great question. Well, first of all, I mean, everyone's got to do their own thing and figure out their own way. There's multiple paths, right? That's the good news about the music industry today is there's multiple ways of getting your music out there. So for us, like I say, we've been in bands before, right? So we've been around this rodeo more than once, and we've been in the bands where you play small venues and then slightly bigger venues and then slightly bigger venues and then maybe someone from AR sees you and so, we've done that path, right? We've been flying outside venues, for weeks and weeks to try and gather fans. So we've kind of had that journey in the past, and this time around we're like we're not going to do that. Obviously, we can't do it. We're in different countries, right? So that's not a model for us. But what is available now, what I kind of consider to be like the bar, the music venue of today, it's online, right? It serves the same purpose, right? And so we always thought about how do we really use social media in a way that allows us to find our people, and that's really an important mindset for us. It's not about being successful or having a lot of streams. I mean, those things are important, of course. It's about we're in a world where everyone's connected, everyone's online. Our people must be out there, right? So how do we connect with them? So in the old days, you'd play a lot of bars in a lot of cities for a lot of months, and you gradually find your people, right? But the nice thing about today's world is you can actually find them much quicker, right? If you do good content and the algorithm does its thing. So it's not always easy, but our strategy is real simple. It's write good music, write a lot of it, regularly release it, and pull as many levers as we can on the socials to find our people, right? And then when we found enough people, then go play live, right? Because I'm not going to go play live to three people. I've done that, right? So I want to play live in Austin when we can get a couple hundred people into it. I think going to be a huge room, but a room that's got a vibe to it, right? So our strategy is online, and that actually works for us being in different countries, right? Because you can, we talk every day. We're posting every day. We're commenting every day. We're engaging with the fans, and that all can be done from anywhere, right? So we're really kind of leaning into the tools available. And I know a lot of artists get frustrated with social media and what you have to do. We really see it as an opportunity, right? It's something that we could, if it was like it was 30 years ago, we wouldn't be here. This act wouldn't be together, right? There's no way we could do what we're doing now, right? So that's our strategy, really. Write music, get it out there, do high quality content, engage fans. We promote a little bit, and just gradually build a fan base, and hopefully that'll get us to a point that we can kind of hit the tipping point, right?
Yeah. Have you found anything in particular that works better? You had a good point that there isn't. There are many avenues, and there's not one avenue that works for
Yeah.
everyone. Has there been one, I don't know, type of post or type of song
Yeah.
that has resonated more with new fans?
I think the things that seem to work for us is obviously a song that resonates. You need that. But then the image and the video matters, right? The post matters, right? So we have songs where you can post parts of songs, doesn't really do much, and then you post different parts of songs where you post a different treatment or a different video, and it takes, right? So we have a track, right, we released about 2 months ago called Taking Damage. It's a good example, which we'd written a while ago. We liked that track, and it wasn't really getting traction. You could just sort of see from the engagement that it wasn't holding. And we kept trying different parts of the video, and then we kind of found this one little part of the start of the second verse, posted that, and then that's done really well. So it's a lot about experimenting, and you got to have that mindset, I think, in today's world, where rather than agonizing over one video, you have to think about how do I just keep testing variations of the same video? How do I try different treatments? Some songs now we've started to do multiple different music videos for the same song. So we're really leaning into leveraging visuals to help us. So, but song-wise, we've have a few very upbeat songs that have done well. We have a few very downbeat, weird, quiet songs that have done well. So it's hard to tell if there's a certain kind of music for sure. Um, but yeah, it's a bit of a mystery still. But good
Yeah.
song, good visual seems to work.
I would say as well. I obviously totally agree with what he said there, but I'd say that regular daily correspondence with the followers is key,
Yeah,
and giving them a new, at least a new 20-second film a day, or a new cut, a new edit, whatever it is. It's a constant daily dialogue that we're having, and it's kind of like some of the best parts of what we're doing. To be honest, it's some of the most enjoyable bits is interacting with the guys that want to follow us. And we would never have done this in our previous bands. The technology wasn't there, the impetus wasn't there. They were different times. We're now in this new world. I'll say new world. It's probably been like this for the last 10 years. But acts have to have and be central to a communication with the fan base. They can't rely upon a third party to do their promotion for them. The way that we've always said, we have to be driving that forward. It's our vision, and we need to be communicating with the guys who choose to follow us.
That's great points. It reminds me of a lesson I learned very early on in my performing career. I think I was in my first band about 6 months into it, and just calling and booking shows once a week or whatever around town. And I immediately thought, oh, well, this is too much. We need a booking agent. And so I reached out to a prominent booking agent in Austin, and I had no idea that it was premature to ask for help. I mean,
yeah,
the biggest lesson they said was, all right, well, I I live off of 10% of everything my band makes. Without telling me a number, think about what your band makes in a month. Is 10% of that enough for me to pay my electric bill?
right,
And
right.
it wasn't. And the person was very cordial and professional, but yeah, I just learned a lesson that uh, no, I need to work every day. Like you said, it's daily content. You have a
Yeah,
responsibility, or hopefully you enjoy it of either interacting or creating a new piece of content. That's your job until it's so overwhelming and there's enough money to pay someone else to do it.
yeah, no, exactly. I mean, that's a great point, and the what's great about today's music business is there's nobody stopping you do any of that, right? There's nothing stopping getting your phone, videoing yourself, putting a song up and putting it out there, right? And it's a bit of a grind, right? You got to keep going every day, every day, every day. But like I say, 10, 20, when we started performing, it wasn't like that. There were a small number of gatekeepers, the bar owners, the A&R folks, and it was all about like the tastemakers, right? They would decide, and now like the audience decides. And so it's incumbent upon you as the artist to just work hard at getting that music out there. So, but you're absolutely right. You got to work every single day. And we see that, in streaming, right? If you're not out there all the time, it just starts to drift, and so you got to be constantly pushing it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I was in one band in the era of MySpace, and every day they would keep a spreadsheet with how many plays they got on the MySpace player and
Yeah.
correlate that to posts they made. Well, when we did this post, our plays went up, by
Yeah,
percent. It's easier than that, but there's a lot more to track these days for sure.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
So I'm already interested in when the time does come for Spycamera to take the stage,
Yeah.
whichever continent it is. What do you think that would look like? Is that already planned, or do you know what the instrumentation would be? Or
That's a great question. It was all sort of like kicking it around. And firstly, yeah, I mean that's the plan. That's success, right? We're not really successful till we're out on stage, and I can't wait to get out on stage and play to people, play our music. But we're still kicking around the best way to do it. You kind of got full live band. One in the extreme is full live band, bunch of keyboard samples. The whole shebang, right? On the other end of the spectrum, you got full playback, which I don't think we want to do. And there's probably something in the middle, right? So I suspect it will involve. I mean, at our heart, we're a live band, right? So even though we are not playing live, we're both musicians that have played in bands forever, And for me, that's what a band really is, right? So I think there'll definitely be a sprinkling of musicians added. I think though, what we're thinking about is a bit like the online stuff is what do we do differently? Like, how can we surprise people? And so when we come out, that's why we're also waiting a little bit, is because when we do come play live, we want to play in a way that's different. I don't want to just be another band on a Tuesday night in a venue, blah blah. I want to do something different. So maybe it's more like a stage show, right? Maybe it's more like a theater show, or maybe it's more like maybe it's in an unusual venue. I think we're sort of exploring those kind of things so that the live show, just like the online and everything else, is a bit different, and I don't see any reason why you have to follow the accepted path of others. Why not going to kind of carve a new one? So I guess watch this space. It's definitely part of the plan. It's probably next year for us. We'll maybe get showing this year, but probably next year is realistically when we'll really start going at it seriously. And then we'll see after that, yeah.
Yeah. Do you get much of an opportunity to interact with each other in person? I mean, do you travel coast to coast?
Yeah. So I guess I'm over in the States about 4 times a year, and we're recording videos, we're writing tracks, we're plotting out our takeover of the world. He's also over in the UK. How often do you reckon? About 2 3 times a year?
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah, we video. We essentially we don't write anything together. We write completely virtually, which we've written together before in the past. But for this project, everything is sort of backwards and forwards, which makes for an interesting creative process actually. And then we do videos every 2 to 3 months on average.
Yeah.
No, that's great. Something you touched on before that I think is valuable for other artists watching this interview is rather than looking at we released this single on Tuesday and then it's gone. That idea of no, you released a single and there's 3 verses and there's a chorus, there's background music for a dozen different videos.
Yeah,
That I think that's interesting, and it can be a lyric video or a
yeah,
cartoon bunny running around or anything.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely right. I mean, you've got like 3 minutes of content, and your average post is 15 seconds, right? So yeah, there's lots you can do with a given song. Even if you've got different verses, different choruses, they give a different feel, right? So there's lots with one song you can do. You can do different videos with one song, and then you've got different performances, right? You've kind of got the music video. You could have multiple versions of the official. You could do a live. We do quite a lot of just unplugged now, singing in the corridor. So we try to do a bit of everything, right? Because what we've learned is, I mean, I like to consume certain kinds of content, but everyone likes something different. So some people really like the lo-fi stuff, where it's just, me slightly off key, in the back of whatever. I mean, people sort of like that. So we try and do some of that. We do some of the polished stuff, and we just try to keep it as a nice mix, so it's always interesting.
And then in terms of a release campaign, I mean, something that's central to our history, our 1 year history so far, is that we've tried to release a new song, let's say on average about once a month.
Mhm.
And so we release this new song to streaming platforms, and then we cross promote it with our socials, mainly with Instagram, where we've cut sort of like 3 or 4 different videos per song. So we've got a build up to it. We've got the release. We've got, the release period of the next couple of weeks where we're teasing different things. And then even then, when we're on to the next song, we can dip back into those tracks that we released a year ago, which is a retrospective that we're currently doing at the moment. He's basically done a fantastic sort of like minute and a half overview of each historic track that we've released, and we've gone back to look at that, and we can dip into parts of that every now and again. So the more material that we've got up there, the more opportunities that we have to create, more vignettes, and the more that we can, I don't know, relate to more people.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's very interesting. I'm getting all these ideas, and that would make us talk for another hour or so. But I don't want to do that. But when you talk about the lo-fi videos,
Yeah.
um, to me, Spycamera's recorded music is just incredibly professional. I mean, the
Well, thank you.
sound and the mastering, the mix, it's pro and it's solid and it's kind of futuristic. Um, Contrasting that to just you singing in the hallway, I think shows a really cool dimension of the band. Just that it's not all polished perfection and futuristic.
Yeah, it's an interesting perspective, and you're absolutely right. And it's a bit risky as well because I suppose we're a bit of a what's it called, like a world band. We're world builders, right? We're trying to create a bit of a world. Um, and so in some ways, you might argue that a band like ours should stay only in the world, in the slick. And there's bands that do that very well, right? They stay in their world, they have some mystery around it and some lore, right? And in the end, that's kind of good, but we wanted to add in a bit more of the human aspect as well, right? That was important for us and for me particularly, right? So that's why we started to talk to people. Now we do regular discussion, we do regular chat with the fans, we do a lot of posts about our process. So we're trying to balance those two quite competing things in some ways, right? Completely open and transparent and authentic and honest about who we are until you can connect to the person. And on the other hand, this sort of very thoughtful, conceptual music and visuals. And in some ways, they shouldn't really live together, those two things. But we seem to have found enough of a balance that, and we're always trying to calibrate. Is it too much of this, not enough of that? We tend to sort of go back and forth, right? At the moment, we're going through a lot of the lo-fi direct stuff just because it's 1 year and we're chatting more about what we did. But we'll probably sort of swing back to a bit more of the conceptual stuff again. So having the both is nice. Some acts can have one or the other, and we're trying to kind of have both again because it brings more people to you, right? Some people resonate with the story of the band and what you're about and your journey. And some folks resonate with just the visual, right? And the vibe of it and don't care about the band and who the person is, right? And if you only do one or the other, you obviously lose the other people, right? And so as long as you're authentic about doing both, which hopefully we are, right? Hopefully in the end it'll work out.
Yeah. I just this morning, well, recently over the past few months, there were some early Van Halen live videos released,
Yeah,
1982, and there wasn't very much video footage of the band back then. But what was really cool about this concert that was released is the whole show. You have Eddie just blah 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 blah, blah and David Lee Roth jumping around and being crazy, and it's just musical monstrosity. But the way that they ended the show was they all four came out around a microphone and sang Happy Trails, the
Yeah,
1950s Roy Rogers country song. It was on one of their albums,
it was on Women and Children First. Yeah,
right? They sang it live, which I mean the harmonies were not on. Michael Anthony sounded great, but it was so rough and
right.
perfect.
yeah.
But after you've just seen, this musicianship,
Yeah,
and that was the closer. They did it and then walked off stage. I did not know that they used to close shows with that.
right.
But I
Well, we'd
think,
like to thank you, Wiley, for actually mentioning Van Halen in the same in the same period as Spycamera. I think in terms of technical ability, we've got some way to go until we get there. But no, it's as he said, it's the rough end of the performance that we're looking for, and the genuine end of the performance that we're looking for in doing our acoustic duos.
yeah, I think that audiences now are looking for artist authenticity, and some of that comes through your polished work, and some of it comes through mistakes and
Yeah,
humanity. Uh,
yeah, exactly.
so no, I think it's cool that you put multiple aspects of what the band is, and not everything is just branded in a perfect package. I think that's very valuable. As far as people finding you, um, Spycamera underscore official is your Instagram home, and it kind of points you elsewhere. Um, have you dabbled with any of the other platforms? And I'm thinking specifically TikTok with making smaller videos.
Yeah.
That platform is ideal for that, but also it's another platform that takes your time.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, the short answer is yes. I mean, Instagram for us is our home base, right? So Spycamera underscore official on Instagram. That's where most people kind of come to find us, and we have about 400 videos on there now. So that's a very deep resource for the band. Yeah, we're on YouTube, we're on TikTok, we're just getting started on Facebook. Our presence there is dramatically smaller, right? So we have what 35,000 followers on Instagram. We have like less than 500 on TikTok, right? So a completely different place. So on TikTok, we're sort of like a year ago almost, where we started on Instagram. And Instagram's our main focus, and we hope in time to get more serious on the other platforms, right? But as you say, it's time. There's two of us. I think I'd rather do one thing well than a few things not so well. And even replicating content across other platforms has not been that successful for us, even though there's a view that, the same content works everywhere. We've not found that to be the case, right? So TikTok needs a certain kind of a vibe, which maybe we don't have. I don't know. We've tried. We had some nibbles on TikTok, but not the same. Maybe YouTube is I think probably the next place we'll look at seriously. Because for us, we've got a lot of conceptual videos, a lot of artistic videos. We need to get all of our videos into landscape and get them onto the YouTube. So that's probably where we'll focus next in terms of like platforms, and then eventually we'll go to TikTok. So they're all important, right? They're all important. They've all got people there. They've all got music listeners there. I'd love to do all 4 or 5 of the platforms to the same power, right? But there's just only so much you can do with 2 people, right? So I think you have to play to win on the platforms that you're on, and then expand when you can rather than trying to do too much too soon.
Yeah. Yeah, something I did not appreciate as I began doing these interviews with Cup Chairs was, to me, it's recording a video and then you send it and then it goes, someone posts it on all the channels.
Right.
What I did not appreciate is that it needs to be chopped up into maybe 12 different pieces for, YouTube Shorts and
Yeah.
TikTok, and you've got to have portrait and you've got to have landscape and square. It's
Yeah.
there's so much videography work to do it well.
Yeah.
That
No, you're right. There's a lot to be done, and you have to get that balance right as an artist. Of on the one hand, that every time you post a video anywhere, somebody might see it. That unlocks your future. That's the lottery ticket on every video, right? I mean, most of the time they don't, right? It's just sort of gradual progression and building a fan base, right? But you never know, right? You never know who's watching where, right? And there's so many stories of somebody watching it, sing a song somewhere, and it went to blah blah. And so every time you post on every channel, even if it's only seen by 100 people, one of those 100 people might be somebody that can make a difference for your band, right? And so that's always at the back of your mind. You know that when you're not posting, you're not buying that ticket, and you should be. So on the one hand, you want to be posting all the time, but on the other hand, it takes time. It's time away from music, it's time away from creating, and I mean, chopping out videos in different landscape format. I mean, to your point, we do that all the time, and it's kind of soul destroying, that stuff, right? So to me, we do enough to what we need to do. We'd like to do more, but you've got to find the right balance for yourself so you don't burn yourself out, right? And then to your point, when you get big enough, hopefully you can have some resources around you to help take some of that load off, right? But we're not there yet, right?
No,
I
absolutely.
think everybody's looking to release that Mr. Brightside or Living on a Prayer or Africa by Toto, or or The Long Winding Road. Just never know when it's going to happen. Until then, we plow on and we're loving doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I think of Kate Bush with the explosion of Running Up the Hill.
Yeah.
2 years, decades and decades after, the traction for that song had pretty much fallen off. You never know when lightning will strike or why or which piece of music or video you put out there that will do it.
Yeah,
Right.
I think that's right. I mean, we sort of see it as a collection of songs, right? And the collection of songs is getting bigger and bigger. But there's definitely ones that sort of seem to resonate a bit more, right? But just because they're a year old doesn't mean you don't keep posting about them, right? So over time, you're going to have a bigger and bigger collection of songs, and hopefully a bigger and bigger collection of a subset of those songs that people seem to really dig, right? And you just keep finding ways to get them out there, right? And get them listened to, and see what happens. So.
No, that's interesting. Bands who are in person playing clubs 4 nights a week do that in front of an audience. This song
Right.
gets reaction, that one doesn't. So you shuffle it out, but you keep that one.
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly the same model. I mean, it's like I say, it's exactly the same as the old model, right? But rather than playing in a bar on a Tuesday and then again on a Thursday and then maybe getting in the van and going to another place, we're essentially doing that process online, right? I mean, it's serving a similar purpose, right? Of by what works, what doesn't work. Now, what's going to be interesting is going live. I guarantee some songs that work well online won't work so well live, and there'll be some songs that have become sleepers that will be great live, So that'll be another dimension that will happen in a while, right?
No, that's interesting. Absolutely. I want to go back to look and appearance real quick. I should have asked this of you earlier, Tim. With the helmet, with the X, it makes me think of Andre the Giant's line in The Princess Bride, where he says, "Why are you wearing a mask? Were you burned by acid or something?" What
Yeah.
what was the inspiration of the mask and the X? Was there any specific inspiration?
Well, that's a salient point. Let's put it this way. I think it's a lot more intriguing with me with the lid on than if I didn't have the lid on at all. So,
Trust me, we're more interesting like this.
yeah, trust us. You do not want to see us when we're not in our alter ego states. No, the X was, me and his idea for one of the videos that we shot last summer. It's a song called Feeling the O, where the whole studio set is based around an X. And so we carried that forward on the lids as well. And we thought it's a nice, striking look. So we kept it.
No, that's cool.
It makes playing guitar quite tricky. I'll grant you that.
You've got to know your parts, not just.
You've got to know your part, and you've got to know where the frets are in the dark. All good though.
That's good. Well, hey, I want to wrap up today, but something I've started doing with artists is at the end of the interview, uh, ask you if you know of another artist who this platform might be good for me to find and invite to visit with, whether it be a personal friend or someone you saw at a club or an idol.
Gosh, I'd say there's a great band in Brighton in the UK at the moment called Adult Leisure. Those guys have probably been going as long as we have. They're probably more pop of the pop rock element, but they're pretty cool.
No, that's great.
Do you know of any there, mate? That
No, the only other one I would say maybe we're checking out, the only because they sort of they also go a lot on aesthetics and vibe as Skinner Brothers. So Skinner Brothers based in the UK, and I mentioned them. They've been around longer than we have and have a bigger following, but you may have already talked to them. But they're one of the first bands that we ever saw on a You Might Also Like under Spycamera. So I always remember them, right? And we're connected now online, and we kind of follow in their journey. So they're an interesting band. They kind of mash up the styles.
No, that's great. I think I'm going to start doing this and kind of see where the trail leads, because I think at some point we all kind of our paths reconnect.
Yeah.
So it will be interesting in 6 months or a year when someone says, "Well, have you talked to Spycamera yet?"
Yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah.
Well, great.
And then there's the other guy, right? I mean, there's Dorian. We'll have to send you his details under separate cover, but he's a cool hip hop guy based out in the US. He was very supportive of us from our very first single, from Hold Me Close. He's got some really interesting stuff that he's getting into.
Well, cool. No, I definitely appreciate the references. Matt and Tim, it's been wonderful visiting with you. You mentioned you've got Man from Soho, another single coming out pretty soon. So people can go to...
go check out. I mean, first of all, go to the Instagram page. We have a bunch of videos on there. We have a bunch of music videos on there. Man from Soho is like the lead single of an EP. So actually going to be our first EP. We're actually going to drop 4 songs together. So we're going to have a some physical media as well. So that's coming in the middle of June. We're already trailing that a little bit online. But essentially with Spycamera, there's songs every month, right? So we're going to just keep trucking on with new songs. And so you can expect another 8 to 10 tracks this year and then probably an album next year.
Excellent. Well, that's a good place to wrap up. Thank you guys so much for joining.
Thanks so much.
And I hope to see you hopefully in Austin in the next year or two.